By now you guys know the drill for Discord horror stories. From Red Redacted. Are you okay with NSFW? It depends on the context. Like, my character is always nude, but keeps a dog costume on hand. The dog costume is 2 pairs of socks, which are black and white with spots like a Dalmatian, which go on his ears and hands. There's gloves, which is also like a Dalmatian, which goes in his feet, a Dalmatian dog tail, and finally red latex dog collar with a giant bone underneath with his name, Joshua Smith, etched into it. He would basically be naked except for wearing the things I mentioned in the previous sentence. Yeah, I can't say that'd be allowed in this game specifically, especially from what I'm considering doing as the premise. Which is... And please, let me do this. Are you free for a one-on-one campaign with me? Make it completely NSFW. You know, look at the positives. At least this guy didn't jump this character onto the players without warning. At least he, proposed it to the DM. That's good-ish. As for the one-on-one campaign he wants to run, I don't even want to interrogate what it would be about. Context, we're playing a 5th edition homebrewed version of the Tyranny of Dragons campaign, which has some demonic necromancer big bad evil guy in it. It's a long story. The party is an ever-growing group, with the current player character count being 9, plus the DM. As of the session, the story occurs. My character is a human warlock sorcerer who is played as suspicious of others and callous regarding all manner of the occult. For example, during the first session, the party encountered a corpse puppeted by a dragon-like visage in a bar that was empty, save for the party and an NPC wizard. The party was doing no damage to the corpse, so I suspected the NPC wizard and questioned him. When he responded suspiciously, I told the party it was possible he was either A, a cultist, or B, a dragonborn/dragon disguised shapeshifted into a human, and if we couldn't subdue the corpse, I was going to try attacking the wizard, which got pushback from the party. They called the idea of the wizard being a shape-changed dragon stupid paranoia, although attacking the NPC wizard was not the solution. 2 sessions later, I turned out to be right when the wizard appeared in his dragon form. While the decisions are rarely as rash as this is an example of what happens every session. My character will say something or make a suggestion, the party shrugs him off or starts insulting him, and when he turns out to be right, nobody acknowledges it. The session the story happens in takes place a few hours before my birthday, which was known to the party on account of the banners and cake they brought, which was appreciated. During the session, we stumbled upon a dungeon housing several prisoners. Some of the prisoners appeared healthy, while others were described as emaciated and on the verge of death, bearing the BBEG Necromancer's brand on their bodies, in contrast to the healthy prisoners who were brandless. The party debated if/who we should free in the cages. The party was leaning towards freeing the healthy prisoners, so I explained that we should free the healthy ones and put down the ones about to die. The party pushed back and argued it might give fuel to the BBEG's demon zombie army, so I explained, yeah, it's cruel, but they're gonna die anyway and become a zombie either way. We might as well give them a quick death instead of letting them waste away in agony. Best case scenario, maybe the quick death prevents them from becoming zombies. And if not, they'll be caged either way. That's when I get booed by the entire table of players. Not joking. All 9 fellow players started booing and jeering, comparing me to the worst dictators of history. I felt like I was in a cartoon. I really wish I had audio or video as proof, but hey, at least the DM didn't join in, I guess. Now it's when I have to introduce one of my fellow PCs, who we will call Showboat. Out of game, he's a good friend, but Showboat is playing an elf bard and has serious only child syndrome. Loves to be the center of attention in and out of game, but it's worse in-game. His character is the type who has suggested not stopping to help save a burning village, but instead that we should show up later to perform a benefit concert, which comes off as self-centered and a little egotistical to me. For example, in the cellar of a church, we blew up a living corpse mound, and as he was at the top of the ladder, he went, "Go on everyone, go without me," and motioned as if he was falling back in some epic moment of sacrifice. This, despite the fact he was at the top of the ladder and the last one up, with no danger of falling below. This is the guy who started the jeers and booing, as he usually does. I wouldn't mind his character being a bit of a jerk if our characters were viewed in similar lights, and he wasn't the only one getting the table to turn against me, but that is not the case. Once the boos had started to subside, Showboat declared, "I open all the cages and shout out, 'Everyone, your lives are now your own, be free!' and at that moment, the branded, sickly prisoners revealed themselves as zombies and lunged forward. We only got away because the zombies started eating the healthy prisoners and got distracted. Did Showboat get a round of booze? Was he branded as a psychopath, bloodthirsty, or the spawn of Satan himself? Did he even get yelled at for being reckless and letting healthy people die to save his own skin? No, of course not. Was I told I was right? Did I get any apologies for the booing? No, of course not. Look, I don't ask the party to follow my lead, or approve of my character's actions, or even to not give me pushback on my admittedly controversial decisions. I've said as much during the game, but I would like vindication like once in a while, an apology when the jeering goes too far, or acknowledgement I was right. After that, my mood noticeably changed. After being booed by 9 people and being compared to the worst dictators of history an hour before your birthday will do that to me, I withdrew from the game and spoke up when it was my turn to do something. We got to a boss encounter and started fighting this fleshy mound in a demiplane. I attacked its tendril connections that were healing it and followed the tendrils into the portal to attack them in a second demiplane to keep them away from the flesh mound boss. I figured if the portal closed, I would call that the end of my character and be done with the game. Sure enough, the portal closed with the BBG capturing me and flying off, but I did my job and kept the flesh mound boss from regenerating health while the party finished it off. As the portal closed, Showboat described how he fell to his knees and proclaimed, "We have got to get our boy back," and I just couldn't hold my tongue. I scoffed and let out an "oh please," which made the table go quiet. I didn't go any further, but God, how am I supposed to believe this table likes my character when they take so much joy using him as a scapegoat every session? After this game, my love of D&D has quickly taken a nosedive. Am I overreacting, or was I in the wrong in the situation? Am I the asshole? I don't know, but either way, thanks for reading my post and letting me blow off steam regarding this campaign. I guess this is an Am I the Asshole post. Didn't expect that. So, I guess drum roll, please. Not the asshole! Look, sometimes I do get it. Morally corrupt characters may not fit into every D&D group. That is normal. But this is not the way to solve that problem. If somebody wants to play a more morally gray character and you don't think it's fitting into the campaign, you talk to them about it like adults. You don't just jeer and insult their character, because that's just outright rude. Not just rude, I would go as far as to say this group is bullying one of their own party mates, which is pretty gross, especially since, if you remember, this is on the guy's birthday. Also, seriously, where the hell is the DM in this situation? You're seeing a guy get bullied at your table and you say nothing about it? You never compliment them? You never admit, hey, you were right about that situation? Really? I've never had a player get bullied at my table, thank God, but every time a player is right when they go against the grain of the rest of the party, I make sure to compliment them and to point out, hey, you did good there, well done. The OP is not overreacting. This group just really sucks. Our cast is myself, Cleric as the new player, DM as the issue, Rogue as the voice of focus, and a server mod that comes into play later. I myself am fairly new to tabletop role-playing games. I've watched plenty of videos about D&D, but only started playing last year though. After finishing a campaign with some great people whom I'm still playing with, I wanted a bit more D&D pumped into my veins. So after shopping around LFG, I joined a server advertising a gritty zombie survival campaign set in modern day. Looked fun, so we session zeroed to make a character. First rule was no warlocks, wizards, sorcerers, or druids. Real world doesn't have magic, so they can't exist. Second was that we had to flavor abilities so they can work in modern day, a la Guiding Bolt being replaced with Bottle Rocket, etc. No biggie, but it made things a little awkward in terms of planning and such, which led to Cleric messaging me at one point asking about game mechanics. I helped as best as I could and moved on to game day. Session 1 was rough. We woke up in a hotel room, most of us hungover, aka level 1 exhaustion. Plot happened, most people cleared up their exhaustion, and zombies started attacking. We locked ourselves in our room and looted supplies, which led to an hour of players asking if they could do basic things like check the kitchen for weapons, being told that there were knives, aka daggers, but later being told that we missed pans, maces, because we forgot to ask for those. At one point, a player sat on the couch and lost half their hit points by getting poked by a spring. Afterwards, we open the door and there's a girl outside of it, covered in blood, an NPC. The group talks to her and she says there's a room down the hallway with a rifle, and she throws my character an energy drink to clear his exhaustion. We mull over our options, with myself and the rogue wanting to get out of the hotel ASAP, while others wanted the gun. I tried to roll persuasion, get the girl and possibly the group to understand that there are zombies outside and we should move on because guns attract more attention and going down the hallway is one unnecessary risk. The DM then asks if I actually drank the energy drink, and because I thought I implied I did, I didn't declare it. So apparently I still had a level of exhaustion and failed, leading to us all going down to the room down the hall. 10 minutes of trying and failing to kill a man that had a gun and kept screaming loudly while someone hit him with something, then searching a room for another 5 or so minutes, finding nothing. Rogue is trying to just move on, getting audibly frustrated from being talked over. I'm trying to do the same, to the point that I just declare I'm sneaking off to find a route downstairs. And high rolls mean that I do. Zombies attack, combat goes by, explaining things here and there to Cleric, and though he gets bitten, we win! Hordes of zombies attack, we all book it for the way I found, primarily due to myself and the rogue basically leaving and saying follow or die to those things. We get to my escape route, an indoor fire exit, but wait, my character didn't look down and noticed that the stairs are missing 1 floor down below. Oh no! Session ends and DM grants us our 2nd level. Then Rogue dropped out before the next session. He said that 7 players was too much for him to play with. Session 2 began with us waiting for another player and a bit of info from DM that Cleric was being watched. Apparently he was a tad young and being a little flaky. I thought he talked a lot and asked a lot of questions, but chalked it up to him just being really eager to play D&D for the first time and that a conversation with the DM could fix that issue. DM's plan was to kill him off if he slipped up, so we started the session half an hour late and then ended the session 20 minutes later. DM had to run errands, and the party agreed to just meet next week as we play bi-weekly. They somehow didn't hear me repeatedly mention that I couldn't make that session because I thought we wouldn't be playing and took an extra shift at work. 2 days later, I backed out of the game also. This leads to tonight. I got a message from Cleric asking if I left the game. Told him yeah, and asked how things went. As promised, he died, and because DM wanted the death to be permanent, he was removed from the game. The 2 new players did join in. I then informed him about what DM told us, and he got in touch with a server admin who pretty much told him that he had scheduling issues in a different game, and then put him on watch so DM was allowed to kick him for no given reason. The guy wants to quit D&D in general, but I told him to try again with a different group and stay away from these Discord servers. And there we go, probably more rambly than needed, but that's everything that happened so far. Though to keep my post title accurate, 5th edition is popular right now, but it isn't the only tabletop available. If you want a low magic setting or a different flavor to abilities, play something other than D&D 5th edition. I've never played it, but my friends say Call of Cthulhu works really well with what that DM was attempting. TLDR, DM twists 5th edition into a modern low magic setting for 7 players. After much talking over each other, 2 quit, and a kid gets removed for being new and having scheduling conflicts. I am not gonna lie right now, guys. I actually am falling into the trap that this player is warning about. I'm actually working on a homebrew Stranger Things campaign based in 5th edition, and I'm currently reflavoring all the 5th edition classes to work in a loosely Stranger Things-esque setting. It's been a really fun challenge, and it's made me a bit more open to the idea of reskinning stuff to fit into different settings. But this player and this OP is still absolutely right. It's not necessarily about the setting. It's not that D&D can't work in modern settings. It's that D&D doesn't work for certain tones of games. D&D has a lot of elements of a power fantasy. Players feel powerful in this game. You're slaying dungeons, crawling through dragons. I mean, that is what makes D&D so fun for so many people. But if you want to run something like hopeless cosmic horror, I mean, that's going to be difficult to run in D&D, and Call of Cthulhu is just going to make that way easier. The reason my Stranger Things hack has been working out for me so far is because I'm still keeping the core of what makes D&D D&D. It's still that epic big-time fantasy adventure. It's just set in a different world. It does suck to see campaigns not work out, but maybe the zombie survival campaign was just not meant to be. Compared to other stories, this is probably not much of a horror story, and I'm more just on the need to write and post this to vent, especially since it's fresh, so sorry if I'm rambling and all over the place. We have a cleric who has been playing really well and balanced as our support and healer, and can pack a punch too when needed for offense. Apparently he got into an online argument about the cleric class on Facebook. I don't know where he went for the argument, but he was ranting about it to us on our Discord channel. To sum it up, apparently he was pissed that some people were arguing about a post on clerics being more than just healers. We chatted about it and basically agreed with cleric that he can do pretty nifty damage and even did a complete kill on a horde of zombies with his destroy undead. We told him to just ignore these people. He's an awesome cleric and just continue doing him. This is most likely to have been the trigger as to why he started playing more offensively and healed/casted buff spells less frequently, and I get it. I also played Cleric before, and they can deal major damage if they decide to take the offense. Thing is, the Cleric class, at least with how our Cleric plays him in combat, isn't built to focus on dealing as much damage as possible, but to be a balance between support, healing, and damage. The few combats in the first session we had after we vented on Discord, although our group's combat dynamics became kind of off, we weren't really bothered by it and kind of just rolled with it. Roleplay-wise, Wizard just lightly pointed it out by commenting something along the lines of, "Feeling a bit on the violent side today, eh, Cleric?" When Cleric cheered very hard every time he managed to kill any enemies. Our initial nonchalance might be because the enemies we faced were not high-level threats, as that session was more focused on investigation and rallying allies. His behavior, however, also became unpleasant at times. He developed a sort of one-sided rivalry with our fighter. FYI, I also play a fighter, different subclass though, who was our main melee damage dealer, and the wizard, whose attack spells focus on AoEs when in combat. He was noticeably projecting the people who argued with him online onto us, especially with comments like, "Yeah, now you need the cleric to solve your problems," or "Damn, good luck guys, I hope you don't die when the cleric's not here to keep you alive," when our party separated. Like, bro, none of us ever invalidated your cleric? Like, ever? What point are you trying to prove to us? Me personally, I got pretty pissed when he started flaunting how much more damage he did than my fighter, and my response was like, yeah, duh. Cause unlike our other fighter, I built mine to be a tank and combat support, you know, so he can be a shield and divert attacks away from you guys, which he kinda just brushed off. The DM has already berated him on it by pointing out we're not the people that argued or invalidated his cleric class on Facebook. He doesn't need to prove a point to us because we acknowledge his essential role as cleric, and to stop taking out his frustration onto us and our characters. We echoed the DM sentiments, and he finally stopped his comments, thankfully. But then, stuff started to go downhill super fast when we faced one of the villains and her servants. Strategy-wise, villain focused more on giving us curses/debuffs, while her minions dealt the damage and prevented us from getting to her. Some of us were poisoned, blinded for several turns, frightened, and then some. It was a frustrating fight, but it was even more frustrating that Cleric refused to cast spells that could resolve our conditions or heal anyone, even himself. Every time it's his turn, he would only cast offensive spells like Guiding Bolt, even using up his higher level spell slots to cast them. Sure, he did damage when his spells hit, but he repeatedly fell unconscious, especially when he thought it would be a wonderful idea to run headlong into the middle of a crowd of enemies and then be surrounded by him, just so he could cast his spiritual guardians. We collectively groaned when he said, "I'm a cleric, I keep the party alive, and the best way to keep the party alive is by killing those who are trying to kill us first." When in combat, Bard, who is usually our strategist and the one making it easier for us to hit and kill things, ended up having to be the main healer with her healing words and healing potions, especially every time Cleric fell unconscious. The situation turned very dire when it's just a Bard still standing, cursed with 1d8 damage every turn and outnumbered 3-1. One of the minions hasn't even been damaged yet. Cleric's player went off on her, telling her to heal him back awake. Desperate, and thinking he would finally cast mass healing word to get us back on our feet, she did so, and you know what the cleric decided to do? He used his main action for an offensive cantrip, I forgot which one, then his bonus action to cast spiritual weapon at higher level. Both spells missed. What's even better, the villain used her turn to attack him with just the Bard's 5 HP of healing he got. He was obviously taken out. Again, we were close to a total party kill, and the DM sounded visibly distressed on how this battle was turning out. The Bard managed to survive another enemy round. She was close to being taken out as well, but somehow managed to survive the minion's turn and the villain's turn, and succeeded her save to end her curse. Once it rolled back around to Bard, Cleric's player had the audacity to demand her to heal him back again. She ignored him and woke me instead with her last potion because I was exactly next to the turn order and she had a potion to help another player. Cleric groaned and demeaned her for it. She replied with, since she's a character with a strong strategic mind, given what just went down, it was what she would have done, which has got to be the most satisfying "it's what my character would do" I've ever heard. I then managed to give the fighter, who I might add was on his last death save, the only potion I had, used action surge to finish off a minion with disadvantage because I was still poisoned, and commander strike the fighter into attacking the villain who is next to him and landing a whopping huge nat 20 damage on her. Still not dead though. Wizard's death save came up, and by some digital dice miracle, he rolled a natural 20 and was revived by 1 hit point. Now this is where we all get a little bit sidetracked because this is the first time anyone rolled a nat 20 on a death save. We weren't sure if Wizard is allowed to do anything on the turn he was revived by a nat 20 death save on, but regardless, the DM decided to allow one action and will apply it to any future natural 20 death saves on his game. Anyway, Wizard used the Scorcher spell, forgot the full name, but basically fire damage in a straight line, at a higher level and killed the villain. We ended that session by dragging the last living minion back to our base. We stuck around longer after that in the voice channel to discuss the session, and did a bit of analysis on the combat with some metagaming knowledge. Cleric's player was pissed and complained that he could have finished the fight and gotten us out of that situation faster if Bard had healed him. DM challenged him on that and asked what he would have done if Bard chose to heal him awake again, and he said he would do the exact same thing that he had done with the missed spells. As how I've laid out how the battle went down, even if he managed to land both spells and took out the villain, they'd still end up getting wiped by the 2 remaining minions with what's left of their hit points. That was one thing, but then Bard brought up an interesting point. Wait, how many spell slots do you have left? He stalled a little in answering by saying he'll check his character sheet and stumbled in his words. Guess what? He only had his cantrips left and several low-level spells. His spiritual weapon would have been cast at its lowest level if he pulled through on his plans, which means that even if he landed both spells and both at full damage, he and Bard would have also been wiped out by the enemy's turn. The revelation made things awkward in the chat for a moment, so DM directed the conversation to the fighter and Wizard's nat 20 miracles that happened at the last moment. Fighter also added that he wasn't sure if we would win despite his nat 20, and even revealed that during the combat he private messaged the DM for some way to let him sacrifice his character so the others could survive and escape. I gave a little bit of input and question on the encounter's difficulty level, and Cleric chimed in that the encounter was too rough. The DM told us that although the encounter was made to be difficult, befitting one of the main villains, it was not the most difficult encounter we have faced, compared to some other high-level encounters we've had. He pointed out that we have fought harder enemies before with even worse rolls. For some reason, we had several snake eye rolls in one of the encounters. Plus, we were even at a lower level back then, and we still managed to beat them. At some point in our discussion, Wizard went in on Cleric, asking why he wouldn't heal anyone, even himself. That it wasn't cool to make Bard deplete a lot of her spell slots for healing words while he kept on abandoning us like when we're dying. Cleric got defensive and argued back that everyone else had a form of healing / self-healing to take care of themselves except for Wizard, but even then he also had a potion, which is why Cleric assumed that everyone will be fine. He got rebutted on that when we pointed out that everyone, including himself, was knocked out entirely except for Bard, and Fighter was so close to making a new character with his 2 failed death saves. I don't remember what else was argued, but I think it struck a chord in Cleric, who got pretty quiet when Wizard more or less said something like, if you have stopped caring about our characters, at the very least you could care about your own character instead of caring more about proving a bunch of internet strangers you argued with like 3 weeks ago wrong. They're not even here to watch our sessions and see you prove them wrong. Hell, even if they were here watching our sessions, you're not exactly proving yourself right either. We echoed Wizard's feelings, and then he just abruptly left the voice channel. Not sure what's going to happen next session, but the DM says he'll discuss things with Cleric after giving him time to cool off, and that's where we are now. I don't know how to end this post. I feel better after regurgitating this out in writing though. Have a good week, I guess? Love seeing some good juju at the end of these posts, but yeah, I completely understand what is so frustrating about the way this Cleric is playing. Look, I think it's okay for people not to be 100% optimal all the time in Dungeons & Dragons. People should play to the best of their abilities, but sometimes their abilities are just not at their best. Sometimes people have off days, sometimes people just aren't experienced with the game. It happens. But that's not what we're looking at here. Cleric isn't having an off day. Cleric is doing this intentionally. Cleric is trying to prove wrong a bunch of internet strangers who, like the Wizard said, aren't even watching the game. Honestly, Wizard struck the nail on the head, and I really hope that served as a reality check for Cleric, and I hope that this group continues. It sucks seeing groups get broken up for really stupid shit like this. Danger, danger, danger. So this happened a couple months ago, and I just feel very bummed about the entire thing. Would love some advice, encouragement. anything, to be honest. At the time, my in-person D&D group sort of fell apart due to the pandemic, and it never really started back up again when my friends recommended the D&D Discord to try and find an online group. Sounds great. I DM a couple one-shots to warm up to the idea of using Roll20 and a mic. As I'm used to playing in person, it's my comfort zone. Soon I realized that with my school getting busier, I don't have time to plan as much, so I decide I'd be better suited as a player. I find a listing by a DM for a particular anime world that I love using the D&D 5th edition system. It promises a gritty and realistic environment. Okay, great. I love low-level campaigns where the stakes feel a lot higher. Sign me up. So I asked if there are still openings, and the DM sent me a Google form to fill out. Basically, it asked what kind of game you're looking for, if you are cool with homebrew, how comfortable you are with 5th edition rules, etc. All perfectly fine. Well, one question about sexual content and how you rate it on a comfort level of 1 to 10. I put a 5, and it gave me a box to explain my answer. I mentioned that adult settings and jokes didn't bother me. I just don't want to roleplay sexual situations. I'd rather kiss and fade to black, basically. As I played D&D with a couple of guys when I first started out who liked to describe the explicit things they were doing to female NPCs, and being the only girl in the group, it was not my favorite thing. I left that first group pretty quickly. Once I submitted the form, the DM asked me to do a voice interview with him and his girlfriend, who was one of the players, checking if I was a good fit or not. Sounds great. No problem. They first asked me if I wanted to play as a boy or a girl. I said girl, and they got to the question about sexual content. I explained again what my limits are, and there was a pause on their end. The DM then explained to me that given that this was a realistic setting, if I acted stupid, then my character had a high possibility of... You know, after like 150 episodes of this, I should have known this was coming. But I'm still disappointed. He mentioned how his girlfriend had plenty of time to change her mind about a certain decision in their previous game, but she decided not to, so he had to explain in explicit detail how her character was, you know, by a monster. His girlfriend was giggling about it the entire time, which I don't understand. When I said that honestly, I wouldn't be a good fit for this campaign as I'm a survivor myself, he said that if I played a boy, then my character wouldn't have that happen to him, although it could still happen to other players playing women. I again said, no thank you, and we ended the call. I just feel sad, you guys. Is this common in online campaigns? I don't know if I'm being overly sensitive because of my past, but the idea of simulating that in a game that's supposed to be an escape from the world, I don't know. I haven't played a single online game since. TLDR, DM said my character had a high chance of being in the campaign unless I played a boy, then described how his girlfriend's character was in their last one. I don't play too much D&D outside my close group of friends, but good lord, I really hope this isn't common, and yeah, I don't think it is common at all. It's just that the absolute worst of the worst really stand against the grain. I do think you will see this more in online D&D. People are just more comfortable being the absolute worst when they can hide and cower behind a screen. Again, I do not think this is common. I think that there are so many amazing, awesome, great D&D campaigns that you can play in out there, but the bad ones are in the sand. They are there for you to maybe stumble upon, and the best thing you can do is do what this OP did. Leave. Look, these fools can run whatever kind of game they want in the privacy of their own home, but that doesn't mean that we have to play in them. If you are made uncomfortable, you have full permission from every atom in the universe to walk away. Okay, and that is where we are going to end today's episode of RPG Horror Stories. If you guys enjoyed, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of my content, then you can check out our Tabletop Tavern Tips series where we give advice for both DMs and players, old and new. And while you're there in the cards, subscribe to Crispy's Tavern to get more of our content right as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down to the comments down below. If you cannot think of a comment, leave the comment, walk away, to let me know you made it to the end of the video. Now, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.